Former U.S. Attorney Jim Santelle, journalist Mark Jacob, and Jennifer Schulze are back with us now for our Friday panel talking about the news in review. And Jennifer, there was actually something positive that you think is coming out of this fire hose of craptastic news coming out of the new White House. And that is the coverage of it. And, Mark and I have made a cottage industry out of breaking down the shortcomings in coverage. Why do you think you're seeing hints of things getting better, providing context and things like that?
Well, because there are actual things to cover. It's not speculating about somebody's mental acuity. There are actual facts. So, for example, the Washington Post broke this story earlier this week about how the Trump administration shut down all public communication from all United States health agencies. That's a really big deal. And then we learned very quickly that it was worse than that. It wasn't just public-facing communication. They shut down travel, which involves experts going to check on drug tests in different places. And they did a lot of stuff in these health agencies, and we found out about it because reporters are on the case and really working hard, I think, to try to figure out all this stuff. Same thing with the rulings on the immigration 14th Amendment stuff. I think reporters have really stepped up to cover that, although I will note there's a section about the immigration 14th Amendment case where Trump is trying to disenfranchise Native Americans, saying they're not citizens and they don't deserve birthright citizenship, which I think requires massive more coverage.
Hold on. I made a joke about Congressman Tom Tiffany on social media yesterday when he talked about ending birthright citizenship. And I said, this guy is close to his ultimate goal of saying that Native Americans don't have birthright citizenship. And you're telling me this is already happening in real life in this administration.
Yes,
I can't even.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't done enough.
The Trump lawyers in their brief have argued that, yes. And we know about that because reporters are covering it. Now, that's one aspect I think deserves more coverage. But I think overall, there is a lot of news to cover. And this could be a really good opportunity for news reporters to focus on actual news and maybe even grow the industry. I think people are hungry to find out a lot about what Trump's doing.
This is the weirdest way, Mark, to get to I told you so from an election campaign.
Yeah, well, I have a theory about this. I think that a lot of reporters felt like they didn't want to go too hard on Trump during the campaign because it would make them look partisan. So there's a political campaign going on. And so I just think they weren't that tough. So Trump gets elected. Now he's the person in power. And so he's a totally legitimate target. And now they're doing the kind of reporting that they should have done before the election.
All right.
I agree.
Now, there is some improvements in coverage, but can we also agree that there's ways that coverage could improve? And I'm going to preface this by saying that I am a subscriber to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I support all that they do. I love most of what they do. But I'm going to pick on two things here, and one of them is going to come to you, Mark. The first thing, just to say in passing, is when they're putting up a headline, some Wisconsin Republicans in Congress part ways with Trump on the January 6th pardons. No, they don't. No, they're not partying with Trump when they go, oh, I wouldn't have done that. That's not partying with. Don't give them cover for that. But the other one, Mark, I think we can all agree that when you run a headline that says something like CBS 58 meteorologist fired for giving a Nazi salute, here's what people have to say about it. I mean, can we not both sides a Nazi salute? Can we not both sides Nazism, please?
No, especially from a guy who has endorsed the far-right pro-Nazi party in Germany.
Right.
I mean, that ought to be a red flag for everyone.
Yeah.
And then when he does the Nazi salute, it's like, well, I don't know if that was a Nazi salute. Maybe he was waving to somebody in the bleachers or something. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's the walks like a duck, talks like a duck thing.
Exactly. And here's another example coming to you, Jim Santelle, in terms of pardons and the equating of President Biden pardoning his son and some other folks close to him, anticipating the Trump administration coming in, and saying, well, Biden's no different than Trump. Granted, the pardon power is rather expansive, but it sounds like an intellectual shortcut to simply put all pardons on the same level.
And that's exactly what it is. It is not only intellectually dishonest, it's also just downright contrary to what is going on here. I have found, Jennifer's good point, that the media is now doing some wonderful jobs of replaying for us some of the specific tapes of these particular defendants. There are about 600 of them pardoned who are violent, many of them involving specific violent attacks upon police officers. The media is now going back and showing to you on various forums and settings here that the specifics of what happened involving these defendants. And there was one that New York Times presented just yesterday. It is chilling. And the notion behind this, of course, is that this individual who attacked this police officer, removed his helmet, tased him, attacked him, hit him with a pole, he suffered a heart attack. That person is now free by virtue of the rule of law invocation of our current president. I think that's the kind of reporting that needs to continue, not only as to these particular defendants and these particular pardons here, but also, frankly, other things in the areas of rule of law. Let's talk about the practical implications, and let's not just do headline writing or reading as we understand what's going on.
So much going on. And Jennifer, let me ask you next. Is Pete Hegseth actually going to get confirmed as Secretary of Defense? I mean, he passed a key test vote yesterday, but that's not the last word in this. But boy, oh boy, it's really looking like some of these Republicans are sinking lower than I thought possible. Susan Collins is still concerned. She's always concerned.
I think that he is. So far, just 2 are committed to voting against him. We need 4. Because J.D. Vance, remember, is the tiebreaker. So there needs to be 4 Republicans because the Democrats are all going to vote no. I think they are going to approve him. And I think at that point, you have to say to yourself, the United States Senate is not only then neutered, I think it becomes like a non-entity almost. Trump will have complete control over that body if they go along with this.
Since he has the Supreme Court as well.
Stunning
right.
thing.
Where would we conceivably get those 2 votes of common sense?
So the hilarious thing is,
we're looking at the roll going, it's not going to be Ron Johnson. I don't know. Where's it going to come from?
Jennifer doesn't. I don't know. I think there's still an outside chance he gets defeated, and those votes would have to come from Tom Tillis possibly and Mitch McConnell. But the thing about it was counting on Mitch McConnell to do the right thing has not been a winning bet.
Where am I? What am I living in here? That this is what we're talking about, Mark?
Please, Mitch McConnell, save us. That's really not a good idea.
Pat, isn't the larger issue just this? This is one of the most significant cabinet positions in our nation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
in the world.
Again, we all recognize that alcohol is a challenge for many people, certainly here in Wisconsin, other places. We understand that. This man plainly has a serious, I think, unaddressed problem, not only with that, but also with his treatment of women. And between those 2 issues, there have got to be other conservative Republicans out there who can serve in a qualified way in this position. This is perhaps one of the most unqualified people that may again be our defense secretary, the guy who's got to pick up the phone in the middle of the night and call the president and tell him about some threats to our national security. These are real significant issues. His personal life, his personal behavior affects his professional performance. That should be the litmus test.
And if he feels emboldened by confirmation, along with Trump, as one Facebook comment goes, if Hegseth gets confirmed, we will see troops deployed all over the U.S. to help with immigration raids. And I mean, Jennifer and, I know Mark or James can attest as well, but Jennifer, I mean, it's going to be court-orama once we start seeing military troops deployed. The courthouses can't possibly contain all of this unless the Supreme Court, like in one fell swoop, says, what are you talking about? It's all fine. Nothing to see here.
Well, it is. I think we have the potential to see a resurgence of journalism in this new second era of Trump. And I hope that's true. I also think that that lawyers are going to prove to be a really important part of society. Not that they haven't been, but a lot of these battles are going to be waged in the courtroom, and we're going to be thanking our lucky stars for the lawyers who still believe in the rules and regulations of their profession. Like with the recent Trump 14th Amendment case, I've seen many lawyers saying that the lawyers that are involved with the Trump stuff should be sanctioned, that they have committed just egregious professional errors in defense of Trump's work. But there's a lot of really smart people, I think, that are going to be keeping those courthouses very busy, Pat, very busy.
You hear that, Jim? The end of lawyer jokes. The lawyer
Right.
jokes are going away. You're
Right.
heroes now.
Or at least we identify again those who are protecting the Constitution. And we've also got, don't forget also about the other guardrail out there, our federal judges. And I know that can be controversial too. We've got a federal judge yesterday in Seattle who said, in all my years on the bench, I've never seen anything like this. To Jennifer's point, not only says, I wonder out loud how a member of the bar, he's talking about licensing, can appear before me and maintain seriously. The 14th Amendment does not mean what it says and says what it means. Beyond that, he also says, this is ridiculous. And he, again, in a 25-minute hearing, this is not hours, this is not days, enters an injunction. He'll be revisiting it down the road. But we also have federal judges who are also a guard stop against many of these completely unwarranted and unconstitutional
especially
efforts.
Since we have some that Trump appointed that are not, like on the Supreme Court. That whole thing about unlimited immunity, that should have taken 25 minutes, not 25 weeks or whatever it was. Jim Santelle, Mark Jacob, Jennifer Schulze. Look for Mark and Jennifer's stuff on social media. It's terrific. Jim will host Amicus, as he does every Saturday morning at 9 across the Civic Media Radio Network. Guys, thank you so much. You are my new rock. I appreciate it so much. Have a
Stay
great
warm.
weekend. And we will. I have coping mechanisms, thankfully. Jim mentioned that already with what happens in Wisconsin.